Welcome to See You at USC. I'm your Wednesday night host, Mackie Kravitz, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have the Dean of the School of Dramatic Arts, David Bridel, is here in the studio. It's going to be a great episode, so be sure to stay tuned. Welcome back to See You at USC. I'm joined now by Dean David Bridel.
Hi, Mackie.
Hi,
Hey.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you have had a vast experience in the performing arts, so I just want to start at the very beginning. And what's kind of your performing arts story?
Okay, my story starts in high school when I was cast in a play which I wasn't expecting to be cast in and I didn't really want to do. It was actually called A View from the Bridge. It's Arthur Miller. It's a,
Yes,
it's a
very
super well-known
famous
piece. Yeah, and we were a bunch of British, high school kids trying to pull off this American classic. It really was a very bad idea, but I got hooked, and I couldn't let go of the acting bug all the way through my university submissions. So I eventually went to university as an actor.
In London?
No, in Hull, which is in northeast England.
Okay.
But before long, I started getting very interested in writing plays and especially in directing plays. And I let the acting kind of go to sleep a little bit. So I did that all through school. And then when I left, I met a clown teacher by the name of Philippe Gaulier, who's one of the world's sort of most famous clown teachers, still alive, and torturing students. And I studied with him in London. He had a studio in London at that time, although he's French, and now he moved back to Paris. Okay. So that's where it all started for me.
So when you say clowning teacher, I'm sure to most of our viewers it sounds pretty foreign and strange.
Yes.
Can you explain kind of what a theatrical clown is and what you learned through him?
I can try. It's not easy. But you're using the right terminology. A theatrical clown, as distinct from a circus clown or a birthday party clown or anything else, is quite a unique beast. Usually at the end of clown training you graduate with a red nose on your face, but most of what it is that you're studying is a combination of improvisation, audience relations, and comedy as it is sort of developed on the fly in front of an audience, and your own vulnerability as a performer, because clowns famously are the biggest idiots that there can possibly be. We love them for it. And what that means is, as a student of clowning, you have to be prepared to embrace your inner idiot. And that's actually a huge challenge, because most people don't want to admit to the things that make them mess up or look stupid or, are in any way less than perfect. So, so clown training is about embracing your inner imperfections, and it's really difficult. And I was a horribly bad student.
So that's such a niche area, really, of theater. And even though its morals are close to what we consider acting, as in like breaking out of your shell, what would you describe as the biggest difference?
The most fundamental difference, and the easiest one to understand, is that a clown is always in relationship to an audience. So this kind of, the notion that the live performance, the thing that's happening now, is the material of clown work. So clowns rarely have scripts. They may, of course, have rehearsed their routines, but their routines can change at a moment's notice depending on an audience's reaction. And some of the most famous examples of clowning that sort of get into the history books are about clowns who improvise something on the spot because an audience was suggesting that they should go that way. And that takes a very courageous and skilled performer.
Absolutely. I mean, improv scares professional actors.
Yeah.
So teaching someone to be fly on their feet and comfortable, how does one go about that?
Well, it's very hard to explain. Teaching clowning is this sort of ancient, mysterious art, just as ancient and mysterious as the form itself. But for me, anyway, I try to begin with as many games as possible that are going to inevitably cause the student to make a mistake. And as soon as someone gets familiar with what it feels like to make a mistake and to just look like a fool, then they're beginning to kind of enter into the territory of the clowning. And after that, you can teach people how to build routines and clown characters and so on. But the first and most important Rubicon to cross is the mistake, the person who you are that makes the mistakes that are unique to you. So it's a really fascinating
finding yourself.
Yeah, truly.
Through messing up.
Exactly right. And you know, weirdly, it has certain relationships with psychology, and it has certain relationships with the sort of, you know, health practices and other things. And we must remember that clowning actually originated as a ritual form to help societies laugh at themselves and
Commedia
to kind
dell'arte, right?
even earlier than that. Yeah, ritual clowning goes back to indigenous societies and is a kind of a primitive way of expressing a society's collective impulses to make mistakes and to do things that are stupid. And of course, kings and queens had jesters and clowns and fools on hand to constantly point out just how silly they were. You know, so there's a long history to it.
Entertainment in making people laugh and stuff like that. It's just so interesting how it's been going on forever.
It really has. And it doesn't end. And, you know, and of course, depending on the political climate, we're in a particularly potent time right now. Comedy really comes to the surface, right? As
the greatest satire.
Exactly.
Is in, like, times of deep struggle.
Exactly. And in fact, I've always, somebody said this to me, it wasn't Philippe, but somebody pointed out to me that true totalitarian societies do not allow satire or humor. And I feel that that's a really interesting observation about, you know, humankind.
Yeah.
That if we're going to be incredibly strict about how, you know, how well we're doing and how rigid we are in our mentality, then there's no room for people to make fun of us.
That doesn't sound like fun.
It's not good.
No,
I don't
doesn't
think,
work.
No, it doesn't work. It's not clever.
Now, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about clowning about how it has connected to like psychology and the medical field. So are there other aspects of clowning? Is there like real life jobs for clowns?
Well, good question. There are certainly, you know, in the circus and on stage, there's that whole branch. But yes, we here at SC are pursuing something called medical clowning, which we mentioned earlier, which takes the skills that we were just describing and puts them in a hospital setting to help kids, especially, and patients to feel better. And there's a really wonderful way of kind of conceiving of medical clowning, which goes as follows. It's my cheat sheet whenever I think about it and talk about it. Clowns always, without exception, live at the bottom of the hierarchy, the social ladder, if you like. But in a hospital, a patient lives at the bottom of the hierarchy or the ladder. So a patient is always less important than a doctor or a nurse or a caregiver or anybody. So the function of the clown in a hospital is to get lower than the patient, to actually be someone that the patient can command and can say, I don't want you to do this, or I'm asking you to do this, please do it for me. To become for a moment a king or a queen who can say, entertain me, and the clown responds. And what that does is it subverts that sort of hierarchical experience that a patient is having and momentarily liberates them from it.
Takes the pressure off.
Exactly. Yeah, of what it means to be, you know, to be pushed around.
You know, it's interesting because actors always are like, I want to make my mark in this, like I want to make my impact on this world, and that is something that really could change someone, and that's what we're always seeking.
Yeah, one of the most influential medical clowns living today is a Brazilian who we invited to USC a few years ago. His name is Wellington Nogueira. And he once described his career to me as follows. He was a fledgling Broadway star. He was a musical theater guy. And he said that when he was introduced to the hospital and he fell in love with medical clowning, he went from an audience of 500 to an audience of 1. And I kind of think that's beautiful, and it really captures it.
Really intimate.
Yeah, exactly. Very
Talk
intimate.
about intimate theater.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right to say that it's a way in which performers can actually have a very significant influence on other people's lives without having to become rich and famous and, you know, be all over the newspapers.
Have that sense of fulfillment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I know that you started the clown school in Los Angeles.
I did.
So tell us more about founding that and what it's become and what it is
Sure.
now.
Yeah, so the Clown School is the first and only studio devoted only to clowning in LA, although there are many other great clown teachers working in this area. The clown school now offers classes on a fairly consistent basis, although things adjust according to the teacher schedules, in what we've built as 3 levels of clowning: introduction, intermediate, and advanced. And by the time you move through the whole program and you get to the advanced level of clowning, then we actually ask you to perform a show in front of an audience, and you have a costume and a character and the whole thing. So it's a simple way of kind of entering into the world of the clown, and if you like it, you keep studying with us and you wind up with your own material. Incredible. And there have been several companies that have started in the clown school that are now working in LA.
Now, would you describe the basic clowning class sort of like an improv class? It's
pretty close, yeah. There's just more attention on, as I said earlier, the relationship that the individual has with the audience, and more attention on the philosophy and the experience of screwing up. So I'm not an improv expert, but I have the sense that in improv there are rules that are established for the student to aspire to. Clowning, weirdly, tries to deconstruct every rule and leave you in a space where you don't have very much to cling on to. So it's a little bit more scary even than improv.
Sounds like a very self-discovery type of practice.
Yes.
So the more you do, the more you discover, and the more you learn.
That's right.
And the more you grow.
Yeah, and we have a lot of people who have nothing to do with the performing arts who come to clowning precisely because they just want to know themselves better. And they've understood and they've heard on the grapevine that this is a way to do it.
It sounds like a way of therapy for...
It's close. Yeah. It's close. It's not the same kind of therapy as you and I sitting on a couch, but it has therapeutic consequences for sure. And one of the things that clowning asks you to do once you've identified your mistakes is to start celebrating them. So whatever it is that is uniquely weird about you is something that we turn into a number or a routine or a show. So you can kind of leave a clown class walking on air celebrating the very things that in high school you were trying to hide or conceal. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Now, what would you say is the biggest lesson you learned through clowning?
Well, it's very close to what we've talked about. It's that the things that you get wrong are often your most creative inspirations. So
there's a funny photo of you on the screen.
Oh yeah,
right
look
now.
at that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's me and my wig and my teeth, the whole shebang, right?
No shame.
No shame. No, and I'm not even going to tell you what I get up to in that show, but it's absolutely terrifying.
Are you still performing right now?
Not very often. I did that, the last time I did that piece, it's called Sublimity, was about 18 months ago or so. I did it at a festival in Northern California. No plans to resuscitate that. I do have another show in the works for next year, but it's not so much a clowning piece. It's more in the realms of puppetry and other stuff. So.
Other forms of entertainment.
Yeah, exactly.
All mediums.
Never stop exploring.
So, I guess my last question about clowning would be, for any student that wants to put themselves out there in the world, wants to perform, what would be the greatest piece of advice you could give them?
Oh boy, that's a doozy.
I know, not a great last question to answer shortly.
Well, I will say this, that anyone who wants to perform has to accept something very important, which is that performing is not just being yourself in front of other people. Although that's an important aspect of what you will explore, in order to truly perform, you've got to dig really deep and you have to find out how to express yourself in a cogent, and acceptable way. And it's just a big challenge, so you've got to be ready for it.
Always learning.
Yeah, always.
Well, stay right here. We have to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll be talking with Dean Bridel more about the School of Dramatic Arts. It's going to be great. Stay tuned. And first half is done.
Damn.
I know, flies by.
It does.
My bad. I didn't mean to stretch when earlier on the show, like to distract. Like it looked like you were just like I was like.
Hi there, Vinny here. You may know me from my other products like the Key Rope. I've got an amazing new product for you that you can't afford to miss. Are you tired of all these remotes? Look at them. They're crazy. What are you, Patrick Stewart? Come on. They got like 10 with like 6 different buttons. You can't do all that math. That's a load of garbage. You can't deal with this. You're the junior VP of sales at Janice Montgomery Scott, who just wants to dance. You know the kid in Bronx Tales, actually, he's not even Italian, he's Colombian. Ditch these boring remotes and make out like a Rocky Mountain goat at Christmas. This is the new Trojan Vision Sensation infrared transmitting remote control device. So you come home from work, long day at work, you just want to watch some Trojan Vision. You just press one button, boom, TV's on. No complicated math. Want to pause? Maybe press the pause button. My cousin did the pause button. You want to turn it off? It's over. Press the off button. Just one button. And for all you health nuts out there, that's right. Get this. Trojan Vision remote, 100% gluten-free. That's right. We tried to make one with gluten. Look, doesn't even work. Now call now and get this amazing remote for just $19.99. And call in the next 15 minutes and we'll include a photo of me at my niece Angelina's wedding, free of charge. Come on guys, I can't do this all day. Trojan Vision, guaranteed to be good for your money. Yeah, no, seriously, I can't be here all day. Yeah, no, I really, like I got this thing going on the side. Like used library books, okay? You just go in, right? You get like something like To Kill a Mockingbird. You check it out for like 2 weeks. They don't care. They don't care about that book. Right, you flip that book, give it to a student, like 15 cents. Make 15 cents. I make like 15 cents like every 2 days. It's amazing. It's just like they hemorrhage money. It's incredible.
Welcome back to See You at USC. I'm joined by the Dean of the School of Dramatic Arts, David Bridel.
Hello
Thank you so much
again.
for being here.
Thanks, Mackie.
Now, you served as the head of the MFA acting program.
That's right.
And then you were the interim dean, and now you are officially the dean.
It's all true.
So, what has that been like, transitioning between these?
That's a great question. It's been a big challenge. You know, I only just arrived in the position of the head of the MFA in acting. I think I had 2 years in total in that position. And then the position opened up as the interim, and I sort of answered the call and stepped into there. And I had to learn a lot about the school and the undergraduate program as quickly as I possibly could. And then I found that I kind of liked it. So I put my hat in the ring for the full-time position, long-term, and that worked out. And now I still think I'm learning about the school. You know, it's in relative terms, we're not a large school at USC, but there's still a lot of stuff going on.
There is a big,
Dramatic Arts.
big program.
A big program. So I'm kind of investigating it every day. But now I'm more familiar with that, and mostly I'm excited to lead the school into the future and to make change and to enhance the student experience. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, with that being said, what are some of your short-term and long-term goals for the school?
I think for the time being, I'm going to say they all blend together, short and long term. I think the school needs a more contemporary approach to what it means to be an actor in particular and a dramatic artist in general. And the kind of thing that I'm thinking about when I think of a contemporary approach is twofold. One is more experience in relation to new technology, new media being a good example, or even old technologies such as cameras and what it means to be on screen. That's one piece. And the other piece, which I think is really essential to young actors now coming out of a school like ours, is the wherewithal to begin the business journey. So, it's been said many times that an actor is actually a business of their own.
Yep.
And what we need to teach is how you open your business and how you run your business. So that when you get out of school, you're immediately able to kind of have a skill set separate from and additional to your ability as an actor that's going to help you survive in this very tough industry.
So with the business being kind of in the forefront, which I think is great, because a lot of actors go in so nervous. They graduate and they go, what do we do?
Yeah, sure.
So are you implementing any new classes to help with that?
Yes. Yeah. I think over the course of the next year, we're going to see a number of new classes. I'll mention several of them. I may not remember every one, but the business of acting will be one such class where we really talk about exactly what we just described. What's your business plan and how do you accomplish it? A new class called the Digital Actor, which is all about leveraging the internet and online resources to help to boost your career.
Like YouTube and
exactly,
those types of platforms.
exactly. And of course, if you know the secrets, there are many ways to access casting opportunities through the internet, but you have to be guided.
Yes.
So business of acting, the digital actor, auditioning for film and television. Now, It's something that does exist in pockets inside our curriculum, but now we've decided to just devote an entire class to audition technique for screen opportunities.
Are any of these going to be required for the BA major?
For the BA, no, there will always be electives that kind of live at the end of the BA major. But I think that they're so obvious that anyone who wants to be an actor
I want to get in.
Yeah, is just going to take those classes.
Okay.
A new one which I'm kind of pleased by called The Stage Artist as Entrepreneur. And that's exclusively for theater-minded students who want to figure out what it would mean to build their own companies and produce their own material. So that's something that we haven't taught, I don't think, in depth in our curriculum as it exists. A class in building your own reel so that you can have something that you can kind of walk out of the school with.
Absolutely, that's so important.
That's your calling card.
Yeah.
We already have Going Viral, which is a class in building user-generated content for the internet. So yeah, that's good examples of where we're going with this.
Well, I know you've said in numerous interviews that you really wanted to implement new media into the work.
Yeah.
And as I can see with these new class ideas, you're really getting started in there. And I just wanted to mention, we were talking earlier about the East Coast.
Yes.
And those theater schools being very stage oriented.
Yeah.
And being in LA gives us such an opportunity to use film.
Yes.
And to use the outlets we have.
I totally agree.
And I mean, I know I personally, when I talk with my friends about our theater training, they said, like, specifically, like, I'm going to leave with a great resume, but you're going to leave with hard evidence, like material.
What you can do on screen.
That I can send out. And I think that is something that's overlooked in a lot of conservatory programs.
Yeah.
And I think it's so beneficial for USC. So I just wanted to tell you, I think you're doing a great job with that.
That's great. And I'm actually, one thing I didn't mention in answering your questions about classes is we're building in a really genuine camera progression into the curriculum. So there'll be an introduction to camera class, which we've never had. There'll be existing classes. There'll be a camera and improvisation class, which I'm actually really excited by. And then there's the building your reel class. So if you want to look at it that way, if that's how you want to build your journey through the school, then you can get at least 4 different exposure points to camera. And that's not including Going Viral, the auditioning class, and other things like that.
Now, USC is known to have one of the best cinematic arts schools in the entire world. Are any of these classes going to be linked with that?
Now you're reminding me of other things.
Oh, more!
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, so I mean, actually, as it stands, we already have a couple of classes that are linked with cinema. The best example, the one I'm most proud of because I partly built it, is the live class, which is based around Saturday Night Live, which is it takes place in this building. It's a phenomenal experience.
Is that different from USC Comedy Live?
Yes.
Oh, no, that's it.
Oh, no, it is. USC well, it depends. Is that a class that you're talking about?
I think the playwriters are in a class, the directors. Oh, yeah, you
That's
do have
it.
to audition.
That's live, yeah.
Okay.
That's the one I'm talking about.
For those of you that are watching that don't know, well, do you want to explain?
Sure. The model is Saturday Night Live. And so teams from the cinema school, which includes writers, directors, and technicians, will collaborate with a group of actors who are cast from dramatic arts on a whole semester of building sketch comedy material. And 3 times a semester, the material is produced and filmed in front of a live audience and streamed live on Trojan Vision as a kind of in homage to Saturday Night Live. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, in recent years, dramatic arts has had 2 grads on SNL and cinematic arts has had 1. And at least 2 of those guys are still on the show. Our guy, Beck Bennett, plays Vladimir Putin. He's the guy with no shirt.
Yeah.
He's a graduate from dramatic arts from about 6 or 7 years ago. So he was here last semester talking to the class.
To the class, right. I remember that.
Yeah. So that's a great example of one of our collaborations. We also have a class where we collaborate on actors and directors working together, and we're cooking up new things as well. I probably shouldn't say what they are until we finalize them, but there's definitely more in the works.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk, yeah.
Well, I actually, since I am a School of Dramatic Arts major, I reached out to some of my friends, and they had some questions for you.
All right, here I am.
So I'm representing more of SDA.
Great, thank you for that.
So this is a good one. So one of my friends asked me, what is your impression of ISPs? And ISPs are independent student productions.
So I support ISPs, and I recall from my own university education that they were probably some of the most potent experiences that I ever had, the equivalent that I did when I was in school. I can't say that I know them intimately because I don't see them all the time. I've just seen, I think, one this semester so far. But the premise that the students should kind of, outside of the curriculum, make their own choices, form their own material, cast and produce, I really think is a wonderful idea. There are some tensions between the so-called official productions and the ISPs, but to try and change anything, I think, would be to take away from the vibrancy.
The creative aspect of the
which
students.
I don't see any point in that. I'd rather find a way in which all ISPs feel in some way included in the school.
Supported.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
So, speaking of shows,
Yes.
someone was asking how to make the SDA main stage shows a part of their educational experience, even if they weren't cast in them.
Interesting
ways to do
question. Okay, so there's a couple of ways of looking at that. One is, I've actually been wondering a little bit about the relationship between the curriculum and the shows that we produce. And it has occurred to me recently to make a more obvious connection between a class that you might be taking and a show that we see on our stage. Maybe it's the same author, maybe it's the same period, maybe it's the same genre, I don't know. So one way in which you might get something out of the SDA main stage production, even if you're not in it, would be to be able to clearly relate it to classwork that you're already doing, or that you will do, or that you have done. That's one thought. The other piece of the puzzle, which I'm trying to solve right now this year, and I don't think we've quite got there yet, is to figure out how to talk about our productions as a community. And we've sort of piloted a scheme to bring talkbacks and the post plays, we call them, to bring students together to talk about plays. It's tough on everyone's schedule. I don't think everyone has necessarily been clear about the intentions. So I do feel like we're in a sort of, we're on a journey in that respect. But the goal ultimately would be to find a way in which as a community we can reflect on and talk about the plays that we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And are you making initiatives towards that goal?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get to the end of this year. We're going to take a look at post plays, our sort of first draft, our first try, and we're going to assess how it worked and how it didn't work, and then we'll go from there and try and kind of refashion it for the future.
Great, great. Well, we're running out of time, so
Okay.
my final question would be, what inspires you to do the things that you do?
Oh, boy, thank you for asking that, Mackie. I feel very, so I'm a theater rat, I like to think of myself. Like, there's nothing about the theater that I don't love passionately. Why that's the case, why the plague bites some of us and not others, I will never know. But what really drives me is the fact that this particular art form is just a beautiful, exciting, exotic, challenging venue in which to tell great stories. And I'm never, ever not going to feel that way. It's what gets me up in the morning, it's what drives me to work, it's what, gets me through the tough moments. I just feel like it's a place for amazing art to take place.
I can feel it in the room. I can feel it when you talk to me.
Yeah.
And obviously we're both so passionate about this, we could go on forever.
Yeah, we could.
But we are running out of time.
All right.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight,
so
David.
welcome.
It was so nice talking to you.
Yeah, it's a big pleasure.
And be sure to tune in to See You at USC every weeknight here on Trojan Vision at 6:30.
Thank you guys for joining us on today's first episode of Balance.
Go get your own tots. Gosh, you flippin' idiots.